and welcome to the Downright Upright Show, the place to go to hear out loud and proud what Minnesotans are thinking. And I am your host, Philip Anthony. Thank you all for joining us today, and I'm hoping you're all doing fantabulous. And fantabulous is fantastic, fabulous, put together, twice as nice, doubly nice, and doubly fabulous. My special guest today is the publisher of The Edge magazine and the co-host, along with Brian Mariani, of the Being Curious show. It's Kelly Wagner. And Kelly is also a psychic medium and channeler, which I find absolutely fascinating. I can't wait to get into that because that's my jam, you know. Hello, Kelly. Welcome to the Downright Upright Show.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Oh, my God.
I'm so excited.
If you don't know, a couple of episodes ago, we were at the Pride event in Twin Cities Pride, and Kelly was there, and we did some interviews on the street. So that's how we kind of hooked up, right, Kelly?
Oh, absolutely.
And it was so much love in that place. You could feel the energy, right? It was crazy love.
It was good. And we were in this nice little corner for the booth. It was really like this nice little safe space. And everybody really resonated when you were like man on the street. You were just like, hello, do you want to talk? I mean, it was so lovely. And people just were so excited to talk with you.
I know.
Right? And your beautiful energy.
So, thank you.
Absolutely.
And then we got to see the First Lady.
Yes.
Which was amazing. I got a picture with her waving to me, actually, which is so cool. Anyway, I always begin my shows with learning about my guests and where they were born, raised, went to school, and any other anecdotes they wish to share about their early lives. So would you mind talking about your beginnings for the listeners today?
Well, I was conceived in 1975.
Oh, you're a baby.
Just kidding. Well, I was. That's okay. Born in St. Paul. Grew up in Eden Prairie when Eden Prairie didn't have the Eden Prairie that it is now. My parents were, quote, moving to the country.
Oh, it was the country back then?
It was absolutely the country.
Really?
There was a Driscoll's grocery store. There was Little Red. One bar and restaurant. I mean, it was Eden Prairie.
Yeah, I heard Egan was farms back in the day too. Before I even lived there. Yeah. And so, where'd you go to school again?
I'm an Eden Prairie girl, born and raised all the way through K through 12, and went to the University of Minnesota, and then came back to the area. So it's like I've traveled a lot, but I always come back here.
Yeah. What was your course of study at the U of M?
Oh my gosh, I was a triple major: mass communication and electronic media, mass and popular culture, minoring in film, and deaf culture. I was fluent in sign language.
Oh wow!
It was like a build your own major. It was really cool. I got to jump all throughout the University of Minnesota. Wow. And actually, there was a 5,000 level cultural studies class. So this is back in 98. And it was gay men and homophobia. And it was a 5,000 level. So it knocked off like 3 requirements. And the professor, and I forget his name, beautiful man, had to go in front of the board and then also the state legislature to be able to get that course created, because there was so much pushback and so many parents were just scared to have their kids there. And the first day he shows up and he's like, okay, because I had to justify this, the amount of reading you're going to have to do for this class is obscene, because that's what they just kept throwing at him to be able to teach it. Right. But it was just this amazing experience, and I'm so glad I got to have it.
Well, it's happening in Florida too. I mean, they don't want to even mention that, the word gay. They don't say gay. Because parents think that it's a grooming mechanism. I mean, believe me, you can't make somebody gay or trans. It's you are or you aren't. Just like you have brown hair. I mean, you can't change something that's inherent to you. So I thank you for being an ally, and thank you for coming to Pride and being a part of it and sharing that experience with me, because it was a beautiful experience. And we went through the whole thing. We could go through that some other time, but because we only have an hour show. So let's talk about Edge magazine.
Let's talk about it.
I mean, I'm fascinated by this magazine. What are the origins of the magazine, and what motivated you to become involved with it? So I know it wasn't originally your magazine, right?
No, it's 31 years old, started by a beautiful man that has passed by the name of Gary Beckman. And he was a pioneer in the metaphysical, holistic health and wellness arena in the Midwest. And I'm going through and seeing these people that he interviewed and brought to events. And I'm just like, what? Are you? They were affiliated with the Edge? Wow. He was filling the Minneapolis Convention Center with events 20 years ago. So definitely very vibrant as a part of the community. And he had a lot of partnerships. And about 13 years ago, he sold it to two of his employees, Kathy and Tim. And he is a writer, beautiful writer. Actually, I was so nervous. Are we going to be able to hold to his standards? And she handled business and sales and all of those components. They had it for 11 years. And they were planning to come back with events. And COVID happened. And they just... like a lot of print publications and a lot of print publications that relied on events, they just weren't able to sustain profitably, right? Because you get all your advertisers pulled and your partners pulled, and what do you do? So during that time, I was a VP of marketing in the dairy industry, and I'm a girl that can find a word for everything, and I was struggling. I was not aligned. I was the girl that would go out to a farm and do seances with the baby cows, and farmers would look at me and go, she's not from a farm, is she? And I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I mean, it was crazy. And I left, and the Edge was up for sale, and it was a publication that I'd seen around town, but it wasn't like I was an Edge person. I was very much in the corporate job, the corporate gig, but I had this kind of this thing I did on nights and weekends and training. And for some weird reason, I was on their website, and I thought it was up for sale. I called my mentor, the amazing Maureen Higgins from Wings of Freedom. She said, I think you should buy the Edge. And I'm like, what? So my husband is a graphic designer and web designer who does all of our layouts. And I sold advertising out of college. So it's so interesting on our life path on how we get to where we have and where we go and where we're at now. And so we bought it. And first year, we didn't go to – I wanted to spend the first year honoring the Edge and the community, and because no one knew who I was. And I had to start going to shows and start making connections and start to talk to people and, hi, I'm this girl, and yeah, we bought the Edge, and believe in us and develop a media kit. And one thing that came to me was paper. We needed to have nice paper, so we invested a lot of money into improving the product. We also have built out a directory section. So the Edge used to have a directory, like a lot of directories, once a year. And I felt that as we are coming into our own, our teachers and seekers need to connect. And our teachers and teachers need to connect. They need to have their peer group. So we put our directory in the middle of every magazine just to show how important it is. Because and I also don't have psychics segregated from bookkeepers. Anybody that is like-minded in the holistic health and wellness community, you are in our directory. And we really do everything we can to promote it.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Contributors from all over the world. And we put in what we want to read. So no rhyme or reason sometimes. And but this new issue that we have out is called We Are Not Alone. And I think
I love the cover.
Isn't that great? My husband designed it. It's his first time. We normally
Did he really do that?
He did that.
I love the lady's dress.
Isn't that great?
That is so cool.
And in the thought with We Are Not Alone, in actually a couple of his original drafts, he had a big UFO in the middle of it. And
which we're going to talk about later.
We're going to talk about later. That's segue, right? But what I was seeing with We Are Not Alone is from Earth and the Earth energy, from our animals to fairies and whomever is supporting us on the Earth plane, up to humans and birds, but then also our galactic brothers and sisters and those beyond, angels, right? So I wanted the cover, my vision. I'm not allowed to have visions with the cover. It's my husband. I was allowed to put input. Was all of this. We and it's a we, and it's the trees, it's the birds, it's the aliens, it's the earthworms. We're in this together.
Yeah. It's absolutely stunning.
Thank you. I will tell him that because I was giving him a hard time.
Yeah, looking at it right now, I mean, I can't keep my eyes off of it. What is the essence of the Edge magazine, and what are some of the benefits that that the magazine can provide its readers? So, if you had to encapsulate what the magazine is about, how could you describe that?
Here's how I describe it officially, and you're going to love, I really think you're going to really, really enjoy this. We're creating a community that is a media platform, that is a safe space. And I'm really driven for this safe space for curious seekers and teachers to authentically connect, support, and collaborate with each other to joyfully explore the pursuit of higher consciousness with ease and grace.
Wow.
That's the official one.
Uh-huh. And do you do interviews with people that, have either gone to the other side or spoke to people from the other side, or psychics, or do you do is that in every episode every
episode edition, they're all the same thing. Absolutely. We weave it through, but then also that's what and I know you'll tee up to that, is the Being Curious show. So that's where it's like, so the Edge is it's a platform, and we have our website, and we have our digital, we have our print, we have our interviews, which is Edge Talk Radio and the Being Curious show, and then we have experiences. So that is events and retreats and webinars and classes and all of that. So those are the pillars of our platform.
So I have a question.
Of course.
How can you obtain a physical copy of the magazine? Because I love the physical copy.
Thank you.
I really, really do. I love having it in my hand. The feel of the paper is beautiful. It's kind of like a glossy kind of, yeah. So how would a person that wants to read the magazine obtain it? The physical copy, and then you can talk about the online version.
So we have 600 drop spots. We have 400 in the Twin Cities greater area. And we're in Minnesota, North, South Dakota. We're in Las Vegas now.
Really?
Iowa, Wisconsin, and Oklahoma. And those are our drop spots. And, of course, you can go to subscribe now on our website, and we'll mail you one. And I actually hand mail every copy. And I put my energy in it, and I bless them.
How can you give the listeners the way to subscribe
Absolutely.
to it?
edgemagazine.net, and then go to the top bar, and then it'll say subscribe.
Wow. I'm going to.
You should. I would love to. And I leave little notes.
I'm taking this home. It's mine.
It's yours. You can have it.
It's all mine.
We have it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And we even put beautiful sacred geometry within the magazine. So it has that intention of just goodness and love and safeness. I mean, so it's really fun of the behind the scenes intentions that we put with our magazines. Like, I have to get a hold of all the copies that we mail out and touch. This edition, because we're going to be traveling, I sent them straight from the printer, and there was a little sadness with me because I didn't get to touch them.
Oh, you want to touch this?
I already did, but I'm going to touch it again. I was like, putting Kelly love in it.
I am looking at the some of the articles inside talking about legalized cannabis, because a lot of people have told me about that's a plant that's very ethereal, that brings you to like a spirit state. Is that true? I mean,
I think it's different for everybody. When we started to put the magazine together, I had this feeling that the legalization was going to be coming down the pipeline. I wanted to bring thought leaders. So we have a cannabis nurse that writes for us, right? I partner with Strains of the Earth, a beautiful, beautiful family-run business out of Jordan and Carver, and they have CBD products and THC products, and they're actually an article in this month, and mushroom products, and just from like reishi and chaga, and like they're about education. And Jim Cramen, the owner, is just a good man, and he's just a great, and what he's doing. And then he's just opened up a new little sanctuary in the top that is just, they're doing yoga and ceremonies, and it's just, I love how heartfelt it is. And we are a platform that wants to support business owners like Jim in such an industry that is so, like, people don't know it's the wild, wild west, right? And to be able to go and get educated by beautiful people like that and business owners is important. So that's why we talk about it in our publication and online, is because I want people to, I think there's the stigma, and then I think there's what's legal and what's not legal. I also partner with Carpe Diem CBD products, and they're just, and You Betcha, and they're farm to table or farm to shelf. They're a Minnesota company, and it's just we really need to earn and nourish the people that are doing really good things in our community.
Well, you know what?
What?
When I go home, the very first thing I'm going to do is read your magazine.
Yes.
I am so fascinated by everything on the cover, numerology you're going to be
talking about. That's Wes Hamilton.
About.
He is like an industry leader.
Oh, my
goodness.
goodness.
We have him every month.
Well, I have to do your show. We'll talk about numerology.
Yeah, we'll do that. Numerology is really. I had a session with Wes and what he was doing, and I think one of my cards was like an 8 of clubs, and he was like, "Kelly, I've only seen this like one other time in my life, and I'm in my 70s." So I'm like, "Okay."
Oh my goodness.
It's fascinating. So
each card means something different.
Each card, and again, I'm not going to give. Wes is gifted, and he is. Yeah. So I would definitely book a session with him. And it just all the different modalities that I would think that a conventional mindset wouldn't explore. We're trying to normalize it, make people curious, and if they are curious, welcome them in and go, come on, these are tools in your toolbox. Sharpen the knives, sharpen the tools, and use them. Mm-hmm. Be curious about numerology. Be curious about your astrology. Now, I'm not going to say go as far as don't leave your bed because we're in retrograde and oh my gosh, but know about it and educate yourself on it. And I mean, and there's sound healing and there's herbs and there's all these yummy modalities out there that I think people just aren't exploring because it's not what they've grown up with or it's not Western. And I want to just, again, create that safe space for people to be curious.
Yeah. Well, my listeners are going to be running out to try to find this magazine.
Yay!
And or they'll go online and order it. Yeah, that would be
We're upping
amazing.
our quantities. We're upping our drop spots. We work with an amazing man named Anish who is he's got his feet on the street and he tells us where to go and I just trust him and it's fantastic. I'm
one more
just
time
honored.
with the where they can online where they can subscribe to the magazine.
edgemagazine.net.
Okay.
And then the top bar, you can say subscribe.
Okay. You got it, everybody out there.
Get it, you guys.
Get it.
And my email address, more than happy to help people. Kelly, Kelly, at edgemagazine.net. Email me. I'll get you hooked up.
Yeah, there's you're getting the personal number right here, folks.
My business advisor is like, you've got to stop all of the personal touch. And I'm like, I committed for the first 2 years to make sure that I touch it all.
That's what makes you special. You do have a personal touch with people.
I try.
You do. It's crazy how when I met you, it was like, boom, It's like, there she is, And that's why you're here.
Well,
because
thank you.
I just think you're fascinating. Now we're going to go to segue to your show. Okay. So your show is tell the listeners again the whole full name of your show on AM.
Oh, sorry.
AM 950.
You were doing this with your hand, so I was going with it.
Okay.
It's the Being Curious Show on AM 950. We're at Sundays at noon. We're part of the Sunday Shine block that has green tea, exploring sovereignty, and then wrapped up with us. And then we're on all the podcast platforms. Yay!
Yeah.
So
like my show is only so far it's just a podcast, but maybe one day in the future it'll be something else.
It will.
Could we talk about a little bit about the show?
Yeah.
Because I'm fascinated. I binge watched it.
I love that when we opened up, you're like, I binged watched your show. I was like, oh my God.
I had to because you can't stop watching it.
It's
really.
kind of fascinating. It's fun. We have, and then when I start channeling and I start seeing things, and then that's not good radio, right? I was grocery shopping the other day, and I was no makeup, hair in a bun, and a lady heard me talking to the cashier because I don't sit on my phone with the cashier. I try to have a moment. And I was like, Are you Kelly from the Being Curious show? And I was like, shut the front door. What?
She recognized
my voice. I was like,
your
what?
voice.
I was like, oh, okay. Sweet.
Wow.
I was like, hi. Thank you.
That is
She's like,
crazy.
I love your show. I was like, thank you so much.
Oh my
I cry at that stuff because it's like, you don't, I think we have 6 listeners.
Yeah, because but you touched people, and there's one example. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the essence of the show is basically
curiosity. Seriously, show up and be curious. And because I think the edge is a little bit more of pushing the I don't want to say the woo woo, but it's out there, right? We talk about paranormal. We talk about, and I say that in a lovely way because I love it. And the pagan community and the holistic community, but then we have functional medicine doctors that are doing some beautiful things with their gifts and abilities, and we have Witch Jody from why am I totally blanking out on oh my gosh, I can't do this to Witch Jody. Hold on a second. Midwest Witchery and Healing. Oh my gosh, I adore this lady on every single level, and I'm blanking out because I just see her as Witch Jody. She is an expert on so many different herbs, and she's a nurse, she's a mom, she's a wife, she's a business owner, and she's a witch. And I love how she rolls, and I'm so excited.
Are these healing herbs that
healing. Rose hips is this one. She's done dandelion. She's done like all these different herbs that, we need to be working with on a regular basis.
Yeah,
so she's in Stillwater. Check her out. Just amazing. So we're all over the place in the Edge. So in the Being Curious show, we're bringing in authors, we're bringing in business owners, we're bringing in psychic mediums. I mean, we're bringing in a bunch of different people from different modalities, and we're just talking about their curiosity. And sometimes we're a little bit over here, and sometimes we're a little bit over here, and we just tape for 48 minutes and see what happens.
Yeah, I would just recommend your show to my listeners because I can't. It's like you're like Oreo cookies. Your show. You eat one and you want to eat the next one and the next one and the next.
Thank you.
So,
like that's
oh
great.
my goodness.
That's what we want. I mean, that's what. And Brian
Except
and
Oreo cookies are not good for you.
They're not good for you, but
But your show is.
Oh, thank you. And I have this beautiful co-host who's just.
We're going to talk about him.
Okay, then I'll just be quiet.
So, how did your collaboration with Brian Mariani originate? So, how did you meet him? How did you get the idea of doing a show with him?
So we were connected by a beautiful lady by the name of Catherine Taylor, who is the mother of inner child work. Well, that's a show right there. But she connected us, and she was a longtime supporter of the Edge magazine and did Edge Talk Radio. And so she was one of my first people that I wanted to reach out to and connect with. And she actually was going to very politely say, I'm done with the Edge. I've run my course. I don't want to be a part of it anymore. And then we had one conversation, and she's like, I don't know why, but I want to be back a part of the Edge. And I was like, okay, great. And then after having a couple meetings, she said, you need to meet this guy I know named Brian Mariani. So she connected us, and we started to have just standing meetings, and we would just connect with each other. And one day, after going all over the place, within 5 minutes, he said, we need to record this. Do you think people would want to listen to us talk? And I'm like, I think people would. So that's what started it. And then I was talking to Chad at AM 950, and things just evolved. And it took me 6 months to sign the contract to get the radio show because I was so nervous because I didn't know if I'd be able to find something to talk about, be able to book guests. I was so nervous. And then I finally just jumped in, and Brian said, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I can't tell you how I enjoyed your show. And I'm not saying it to be, because you're a guest on my show. It was just fascinating. I love learning about because I did talk to you before the show about my little experiences with the with psychic phenomena, I guess you would call it. And so, yeah, and I learned quite a bit from your show. And I have to say another thing. We talked about this too. Brian Mariani is one good-looking man. I'm married, guys. I know I'm married. I have a wonderful husband. He's very handsome.
Oh, yeah. You do have a very attractive, very lovely husband.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, he's yummy.
He's yummy.
See, I'm very happily married, and I can acknowledge that. And yes.
But
and let's just give a high five to your husband during the middle of the show.
Yes, high five.
Hello.
So what day and time can the listeners hear? Or you can watch it also on YouTube, but at any time. But what time is it live?
Noon on Sundays.
Yeah. And it's called The Being Curious Show.
Being Curious
Show. I love the name of it, too.
It just came to me. It was
it makes you curious to listen to it, right?
Yeah.
I love the name.
One of the Queer Eye for the Straight guys, the Jonathan, the guy with the long hair, he has a curious show. Like, what are you curious about or something like that? That's the only other curious show, and I should listen to it because I find him fascinating.
Yeah, I love talking to people that have shows and why they came up with the names. So, like my show, everybody says, why do you call it Downright Upright Show? Because I believe in honesty. And I wanted the show to be a place you can tune in or listen and learn and not hear the BS that's coming from the other echo chambers that, I just talk about being downright upright.
Yeah.
Just be me. Talk about me and talk about you and learn about what makes and being empathetic. That's my big one. Talking about love and being empathetic.
Yeah.
So that's what my show is pretty much about. So
I love your show.
Oh, thank you.
When I was watching you at Pride and how you just walk and people were lined up and then to watch them get a little nervous to talk to you, that was really fun too. And you just were like, it was just beautiful to watch.
I love people. I feel a vibration when I talk to people. I can get a bad vibe sometimes, and then I try to.
Don't worry, it happens all the time.
Yeah, sometimes it does. You ever meet somebody and you don't know why you don't like them? It's weird, but I am very intuitive that way, I think. But anyway, the Being Curious show, everybody, listen to it. It's fabulous. And if you miss it, it's on YouTube, and you could actually see Kelly and Brian. Yeah. And you can see how handsome Brian is and how beautiful Kelly is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's go back to Pride a little bit now.
Let's do it.
You and I met at Twin Cities Pride this past June, and we instantly, obviously, hit it off. I mean, you were like amazing. And at that time, you told me you were a psychic medium. I didn't know that. I knew you had a show, and I really didn't delve too deeply into your show, but I knew you had a show.
Right.
I recognized you and the title of your show when you told me. And then you told me my grandmother was giving me a hug from heaven, and she had a shawl, and she put it around me, and you brought a tear to my eye. And I just want to thank you for the connection, because that's fascinating to me how you even knew that. Like, I don't know. It was
interesting because it was Pride. And there was a lot going on.
Yes.
And there
was a lot of energy. You picked up a lot of energy.
Well, I purposely was not going to open myself up in that way. In an environment like that, I normally close things down, protect myself. It's the best way to describe it. Your mic is great, by the way. Protect myself. And I did not, it was not my intent. It's almost like a dialing of a radio. You just kind of dial it. And I was just going to be Kelly. Right, my daughter was there. Like we were, like it was Pride.
She was
right,
beautiful. What a nice girl.
Thank you.
And she, and thank you for bringing her, because that way she learns that we're just human. Everybody's just a human being, and she doesn't learn all the negative stuff. She just sees the positive. Does that make sense?
She has many friends that are a part of the community. Absolutely, yeah. And it I don't know why people don't want to normalize. I just it's if my kids have questions, I do the best I can to answer, or find someone that can give them a much more educated viewpoint than I have, or I go do research, or go talk to. No, we'll talk about more of that stuff later. Yeah. But it's not a normal place that I would open up. And your grandmother came to me, and I very politely pushed her away, and I just said, that's not what I'm doing today. Like, I'm not going to do that today. But when a soul will keep tapping me on the shoulder or doing something to get my attention, I now... Normally, when you politely tell a soul, please, like, it's not a good time, they will listen, and they will be absolutely respectful. But this one was very, very clear, and she kept showing me the shawl. And she knew by saying, and it was very specific, and I described the shawl. She knew that you would get it and you needed it, and it was more of, he needs this information today, and basically pushed me aside and said, you need to deliver that. And I know well enough to say, okay. And I knew the way you responded that I was on point. And that was, when I first came into my real gifts and abilities, I would like stop people on the street and be like, da 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 da. And,
do you do that now to this day? Like, if you get a vibration from someone?
No, I keep it because but I used to. Oh my gosh. Like, and then you want to talk about it? Ooh, yay. Right. But normally I try to keep things very much, in with my friends and family, but even my family, I don't, openly talk this way because I've gotten in trouble for it. But I have private clients, so I'll just come to someone and say, "Here's my card. You wanna connect? Let's do it." Absolutely, and I keep that respect. And it wasn't that I was not honoring your respect, but you seemed very, very open, and I gave, I think, a couple little breadcrumbs that you completely responded in a beautiful, open way, and then I was able to do that.
I think I was psychically telling you it's quite okay.
Yeah, you were like. Anything else? Yeah. So it was lovely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And very briefly, I just want to say that I have these abilities. I've always had them my whole life. I just can't harness them very well. They happen very sporadically, and then I don't know if it's my spirit guide, communicating or what it is, but I have had experiences through my whole life. And I would love eventually to go on your show so that we could get my listeners to go to your show.
Absolutely.
And listen to my stories about what happened. And you can analyze or put your finger on what's going on when I describe these different incidents and what you think they are. Because, again, they happened to me, and I don't know if they'll ever happen again or whatever, but and dreams that I've had, and I'm sure you also talk about dreams as well on your show, because that's a big part of it.
It's a big part of it, and what I would encourage you, and today is not the day for it, but if you are ever curious about opening that box up and looking inside and exploring it, not only is that something that I can help with, but in our directory of the Edge, not just bringing it back to the Edge, but a great group of very trusted souls that could help you and guide you. And different people have different gifts and abilities. And yeah, I feel like I am the white pages sometimes. I get called all the time, emailed and calls. I need someone that does dream interpretations, or I want to do a sound healing, or I want to do Reiki, or I want to do this. I'm constantly circling and sending people my directory out of people. We
definitely have to talk.
Yeah, I've got a great black book.
Stories that you're going to be like, really? It's going to fascinate you. But again, like this show it'll take too long to go through all of this, and we'll do it on your show.
Okay, perfect.
Because your show, that's your niche, and but I do want to talk about what I do want to know is, when did you realize that you had this ability, and how did you develop or harness it? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I've always been a person that people will cross the street and tell me their life story. I should have always been walking around with Kleenex. It's kind of funny. I can see on people.
Right.
I'm very intuitive. I would probably just say that. Marketing just comes to me. Sales just comes to me. Relationships with people. I know things about. I'm like, I can tell this person's this or that. I can walk by a pregnant lady and what's your son's name? What are you talking about? And I went to Marine, Wings of Freedom, about 20 years ago, and had a session. I wanted to communicate with my grandmother that had passed, and I thought it was a one and done. And I'm just going to go talk to a psychic, and everything's great and done. And she opened Pandora's box, and then I just became curious. And she said, I have classes, or I have this, or I would read books, or I would.
How old were you when this happened?
In my 20s.
You were
late
young.
20s,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Is it possible that some people develop this later in life? Or?
Sure. But I also, it's something you touched on before, I also had the imaginary friends. I was always open to it.
Me too.
Right? The imaginary friends are great. My daughter Brindley has Linda and Tom, and they're her parents from a previous life. They also have a baby cow now. So we talk about this openly.
My mother used to say, "Who are you talking to, Philip?
I know.
Who are you talking to?" And I was literally having a conversation.
Full-on conversations. I'll talk to myself. Yeah. So I think it's a knowing, and then I just leaned in, and then I just started working with people, like trusted people, and I lucked out. The first person that I went to is one of the most amazing people on the planet. So it was almost like I got a fast pass. Like, so many people would be doing all of these things, and I just went right to an amazing source.
Mm-hmm. You didn't pass go, and you
but I mean, come on,
$200.
I was in, yeah, absolutely,
right through it.
But I mean, I'd be down in Narlands, and I'd go to Mallory Square, and I'd have my cards read, or I'd go to the Renaissance Festival, or I'd be traveling, and a psychic would do a reading. So I've always been curious and playing with it, but when I could actually start, when I get these services done and I have to shut myself down, and because I end up reading them, that's when I started to really know, like, oh, there's something going on here.
Right. Kelly, we have come to the part of the show I like to call the shift. Please use that F. Please pronounce it.
Shift.
because if you don't say the F, we have problems.
We have problems.
It becomes a different word altogether.
It does.
And we're going to shift the questioning away from your amazing journey and everything you've told me so far. It's fascinating. And now we're going to talk about what's happening in the world and your opinions.
Let's do it. Let's rock it. There's a lot going on.
So you ain't kidding. Is ain't a word? No.
Today it is.
Today it is. The following two-part question I have for you is one that I could only ask you because you are you, you know. Have we entered an age of positive energy or a balanced chakra whereby our society will become more harmonious? Or have we entered an age of negative energy or a closed chakra? What are your opinions about that?
I feel we're in the birth canal.
Oh, are we?
When I dial in with it, I feel like we're in the birth canal. And the birth canal is painful. Isn't the day you're born like the most painful day of your life?
Mm-hmm.
Probably outside the day you die. But
Well,
that's right.
the mother, it's much
well, and the
more
mother,
painful.
just as someone that's given birth twice, woo! So I think everybody is like in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
So the birth canal, and you're only in the birth canal for so long, but then there's the light,
And it's
then
beautiful.
it's there's a little cleanup, but literally we're in the birth canal. That's what I feel like we're in right now. I think there's a lot of everything going on. I think there's people that are losing their mind, and they're doing. Well, just tapping in with that. Yeah. But I think there's amazing people doing beautiful things. And I think that's always kind of going on. I do feel that there's a lot of topics that people have wanted to push down for years that are coming to light again in the birth canal. We have to come up. Mm-hmm. And that's hard. Birth is hard. So I think we're in the snapshot there's a lot going on right now. And
and we're very politically divided, as you know.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like a 50-50 country, maybe 48-52, but we're pretty much divided down the middle,
right.
You know. And we see discord within our own families and friends because of it. What do you think is going to happen with that? Do you think once we, like you said, we're in the birth canal? What's going to happen in a few years with that? You think that we'll heal and love will conquer all, as they say?
Like Here Comes the Sun from the Beatles, like, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You know what? I think we're in a time of choice. You know, I do believe that we're all here at this time for a reason. Like, right? There's not a coincidence that we're here.
Right. I believe that. Yes.
I do believe there's a lot of our ancestors' actions that we're having to deal with and clean up. That's not ours, but that we're carrying it. And I think people are kind of confused on what's mine and what's the collective's and what's theirs. I think it is a time to believe that there's two sides to every story and be open-minded and to come to the table, even if you might have not the same viewpoints, but try to see other people's side of the story. I think that'll help. That's why I have a show on curiosity, because if you and I have a discussion and we lead it through the lens of curiosity, it's going to be a lot more comfortable and safe than just, I'm this and you're that. I'm black, you're white. I'm purple, you're green. Like, right?
Right.
And just standing that. I think if more people just kind of came in.
100%.
Right? In even our community, there's like casting a spell. I was talking to a witch and she's like, there's a spell. And then there's people that are like, well, I'm going to manifest. Well, the way it was described to me, all a spell is manifestation with action. So it's kind of like we're all agreeing on so many things, but it's packaged differently and we're disagreeing. And sometimes people are disagreeing just to disagree. Yeah. So there's a lot of that, I think. I'm hopeful that that's being lifted, where we can all come together and stay heart-centered and stay clean and kind and try to, again, believe there's two sides to every story. But we all are about the solution. We can't just pop it in neutral and sit back and hope that everybody else is going to clean up. It's time to roll your sleeves up and be engaged.
Yeah. I'm praying that we heal. I really am. It's very important to me that because like I said, I'm all about love and empathy. Yeah. And I think people are becoming more and more empathetic as we move along in society. And I want to move on to a more current issue that just cropped up on my radar.
Of course.
So in local Minnesota news, Tao Thao, I think that's how you pronounce his name, he was the last former Minnesota police officer convicted in state court for his role in the killing of George Floyd. He did not show remorse or admit any wrongdoing as he was sentenced in the higher range of the charge to 4 years and 9 months. So he got 4 years and 9 months. Last year, 2 other officers who were accessories to the murder pled guilty. And they had remorse.
Yeah.
How can an officer like this just stand by and not even allow paramedics to attend to Mr. Floyd and claim he was not guilty? So he's still, to this day, says, I have a clear conscience. I'm not guilty for being an accessory to what Derek Chauvin did. How do you explain that? That's so confusing to me. How you can say that you're not guilty.
Here's what there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of training. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that we don't know about. And I also know that when you're in a situation like that, he's probably being advised by a legal team. And there must be a strategy. I mean, right?
Yeah.
We also don't know what he was feeling like on the inside when he was going through it.
I wish I did.
Right? I mean, that's where I want to give, he's not here, so we don't have his voice. He was also, his culture, he's a Hmong officer, correct?
I think so.
And I know very much from the people I know in the community, the men that I know are very stoic. And they might not, maybe thinking of showing emotion might be a sign of weakness, and maybe he didn't want to do that. I don't know. I think there's a lot of different ways. I think the whole situation is completely sad. Not only that, I mean, just everything around it.
It was the most horrible thing I've ever seen in my life.
But he's losing his family as well. He's losing his rights and a police officer in a prison. I wouldn't want to be a police officer in a prison.
But I would have liked to have heard from him, I'm sorry, to the family, Yeah. I'm sorry that I didn't step in. Instead of saying I have a clear conscience, I don't know. I just find that fascinating. That
I just get that he's being advised, and that's
maybe.
just me. And I don't. And when you're in such a high profile case like that, again, I don't think he just has one lawyer. I think that there's a team around him giving him that advice, and maybe he's just taking advice of his team. Again, two sides to every story, or how do we look at it?
You can't jump into his brain and know what he was thinking at that time.
Right?
Yeah, you can't.
I mean, you never know. He could have been crying on the inside and going, "Oh my gosh!" But believe me, I bet there was a lot going on in his mind.
Yeah, but I would have loved to have heard him say just the 2 words, "I'm sorry."
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Not be so arrogant and I didn't do anything. I have a clear conscience.
But what if he feels that he didn't do anything wrong? What if he feels that he was just following the book? I mean, I'm just, again, this is where I try so hard, even though it's maybe not my personal belief, but to go, well, maybe he did feel like he checked all the boxes and he was doing his job. Right?
Well, you and I are very empathetic people.
Absolutely. Oh, gosh.
So we were different.
I would have been but I wouldn't be able to be a police officer because that is such
exactly.
They are
very difficult
it's
job.
a very difficult job, and I respect everything that they do.
Yeah,
because
they're amazing people. They really, you have to be on a different level to do that.
It's not a 9-to-5 job. It is your life.
No, yeah,
right. So I don't know. I believe that there's his. I would love to have a conversation with him.
Me too.
Right.
I agree. I think I don't know, but I just can't get that image out of my mind of that man passing over, and it's just very sad. Anyway, we'll move on to another subject.
Absolutely.
Very quick. This is like a lightning round, this part of the show.
Do it. Let's go.
As I'm sure you've heard, a retired Major David Grush, I think that's how you pronounce his name, recently testified before the House Oversight Committee that the United States government has been involved in a cover-up regarding UFOs and non-human activity since the 1930s. Think about that.
30, you guys. That's like almost 100 years.
Goodness. And in your opinion, do you believe, Major Grush, that we have been visited by non-human creatures? Do you think he's losing it, or do you believe him?
I believe him.
Okay.
I'm just going to leave it out just like that. I believe him.
You
right?
believe him?
I believe him.
Uh-huh. Have you ever had a close encounter, or do you know anyone that did?
I do know people that on a regular basis are in that world. I believe it. I believe to believe that we are the only beings.
Yeah, I agree with you.
In one planet, in one solar system, in one universe, and we're it. Like, Come on. I'm sure we're a science experiment for a lot of right?
Yeah.
So I also
By the way, to interrupt you, did you
course.
ever have a guest on your show that talked about this situation with that UFOs? I would love to listen to that one.
Yes, but there's other guests. Martin Keller, who's highlighted in the most recent issue of Edge. I want to get him on. I just
good.
read his book.
I'm going to keep on a lookout
for
that. He's
good. Like he goes through it. It's and he does it in a way where you're like, he's a very intelligent man. I mean, it's when the people are like, oh, I was abducted by this and this. I mean, I could imagine if you were abducted, it would probably, when you get dropped back, I'm sure it would just mess with you, like, right? And then you're telling people and they're like, oh, you're crazy, right? Mm-hmm. So I believe it's been happening. But how many people since the 1930s would be okay with the government going, it's all good. We've got aliens. They're among us. They're around.
Yeah, but
welcome into your home.
Yeah,
just
but
come
why
on
do you
in.
think they're hiding it? What's the reason for that?
I don't know. Fear.
They're afraid to scare people?
Control. I don't know. That's as someone that speaks to dead people, I'm like, hey,
listeners, stay tuned to Kelly's episode with what's his name? The UFO
Martin Keller. Martin, I will be contacting you. We will get on the show very soon.
Yeah, okay. Now, on every show, I ask questions of my guests that have LGBTQ content.
You said it right.
I said it right that time. Yeah. When I do the show live, I could do it.
You did, and it sounded beautiful.
And when I prepare, I can't.
Yeah. I always feel like I'm saying it wrong, so thank you so much.
LGBTQ.
Okay, perfect.
LGBTQ. The following LGBTQ hate crime touches me personally because it occurred in the city where I was born and raised. It occurred in Brooklyn. I was born, raised in Brooklyn, New York. And this hate crime just happened. So it's not even old news. It happened just recently. Yeah. So I'll just read it really quick, and you can give me your thoughts about it, okay?
Okay.
It's very sad. So, but I want to talk about it because we have to stop this stuff. We have to talk about it, and it has to be out in the open. And because people are saying, oh, the gays, they got their equality. They're good to go. No, they're not. We're not good to go. We still have a long way to go. There's still people that look at us like these, sinners and sodomites, as they call us, and all this stuff. So a 17-year-old male was arrested in connection with the fatal stabbing of O'Shea Sibley, a 28-year-old gay man, at a Brooklyn gas station, and was charged with murder as a hate crime, officials said Saturday. The teenager, who has not been publicly identified, was arrested and charged Friday, New York police said. The suspect turned himself in at a police station in Brooklyn, and law enforcement sources told NBC News on Friday that this had happened. Sibley is a professional dancer and choreographer, and he was stabbed to death just because he was voguing. It's a dance. It's most common in the gay community.
By the way, voguing is amazing, but that's like when Madonna was in her
that's the early 90s,
right?
Yeah.
And and I know she was at gay clubs, and
she took it from the underground gay clubs.
Yeah. But voguing is
it's a fascinating
to be able to move and have your body look that beautiful as you're doing it. Okay, sorry.
It's a beautiful art form.
It is.
It is. So Otis Pena, a friend of Sibley's, who said he witnessed the stabbing, shared a video on Facebook the next day about the fatal incident. But he was quoted the following. So this is a quote from his friend. "They murdered him because he's gay, because he stood up for his friends. He is the salt to my pepper." Yeah. His name was O'Shea, and you killed him. You all killed him. You all murdered him right in front of me. Oh my God, I get the chills when I'm
trying to hold things space for you.
Isn't it crazy? Homophobia is still rearing its ugly head, even up until today. How can people say that we are all equal in this country when a man was literally just killed simply because he was gay? And that dance is a demonstration of his expression of being gay. So you may see, I'm sure there's some straight people that vogue, but it is
I can't Vogue like he probably could.
No.
No, I would. No, Madonna would be ashamed.
Yeah,
if she
I
saw
heard
me
he
trying to
was.
Vogue.
Yeah, from the news reports. Yeah, he was an amazing choreographer and dancer. So, what are your thoughts about this?
I'm just so sad by it, right? I mean, but then it's not just it's a human issue. It's not just a gay or straight or black or white. There's so much, like you said in the beginning of the show, so much divide going on, and to send them to stab someone, like
just for that,
there's taking another person's life just because you disagree with what they're doing in a gas station. And if you're voguing, you're full of joy, right?
It's beautiful.
You're full of expression. I would probably say that, unfortunately, the unfortunate soul that lost his life was probably triggering the person that stabbed him and reminding him of things that he probably didn't want to deal with in his own life.
Right.
And very ignorantly and angrily took that feeling out on him and stabbed and decided to. I'm on a soul level. I'm just beyond words. It's so sad. But again, it's not just a gay or straight or black or white or purple or green. It's why would another human do that to another human as they're joyfully expressing themselves?
Yeah, he was doing something that gave him joy,
right?
And you killed him for just because of that. And of course, the underlying reason he probably did kill him was because he figured he's doing a quote unquote gay dance, and so he must be gay, so I'm going to kill him. And this dehumanization that we see in even with these African American trans women, they're like the number one targets of because of certain politicians on the other side who are demonizing trans people.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Why can't we just say, you do you? You do you, yeah.
Right.
And
I doubt he was voguing on top of him, right? I doubt he was in his face beating him up, voguing, right?
He didn't know what hit him. I heard from the reports. It was it was like boom, this just happened. And this friend of his, just when he said he's the salt to my pepper, it was just a. When you talk about salt and pepper, they're a pair.
Yeah.
And they go in what's the word? Inextricably, is that the word? Together.
Right.
You think of salt, you think of pepper. You think of love, you think of, passion or whatever. There are words that connect, and he's trying to say in his quote that this is the other part of me.
Right.
This is.
Well, think of the families that were involved with it, and the only thing I'll really say is I think abused people abuse people.
Yeah.
And I think there was anger. And a
lot of anger.
You just don't walk into a gas station with a knife and start stabbing someone that's voguing because, I think there's more to it. I think there's unfortunately more to it. And I want to honor the gentleman that was passed. O'Shea?
Yeah.
Honestly, I also think that O'Shea was probably really at the wrong place at the wrong time expressing himself, and that just is so unfortunate, right? It sucks. Let's just say it sucks. The whole thing sucks.
It really does, Kelly. And and you remember at Pride when we were talking to people, there were people that were voicing their fear of coming to Pride, just for that very reason, because they're afraid they're going to target me because I'm gay, or they'll target me because I'm trans, instead of just saying, you live your life, I'll live my life, everybody just live in harmony. You may not agree, disagree, whatever with the person, but they're a human being, and we want to honor them as a human being before anything else.
Look in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Liberace. He couldn't just come out and be like,
no,
because he was worried about his fan base.
Elton John.
At
the beginning, yeah.
Right? List all of these different...
David Bowie, who actually was almost like a woman when he came out, and
good for David.
Yeah, good for David.
Right? But even the secret ones that had to just kind of hold it for... anybody that has to, quote, hold a secret and can't be with the person they love and can't hold hands walking down the street. I know it's a privilege that I'm able to hold my husband's hand. And I know when you were younger, you probably had to hold things in, and that saddens me. These beautiful things of expression that we're not able to do because they're not socially acceptable.
Yeah.
I think politics. I think religion. I think there's a lot of things that come into people's circle of influence.
Well, my personal story, I was almost gay bashed as a young teenager. I had walked out of a gay bar, and we were being followed, and we knew something was not right, and we were running for our lives, literally. And luckily, I was a fast runner. Yeah. And they had bats. I remember they had bats.
I'm so sorry.
And they were like going like this, you faggots. And I hate that word, people. So forgive me for
using it. But it's a powerful
it.
word, and it was used at that time, and that's what we have to.
Very
right?
Powerful word. Before we close out the show today, Kelly. Is there any issue I haven't covered that you'd like to address, or any future event that you would like to promote before we close out?
I'll be really quick, but right now, Maui is on fire, and
yes.
I live Aloha, and I was married on Maui, and I'm watching Old Lahaina town and the banyan tree burn, and I just want to put aloha to all the Hawaiians and
pray for
right,
all
and even
of them.
everyone that's there, and the animals and everybody here, there, and everywhere. Much aloha to everyone that's been touched by those beautiful islands. And anything going on, just pick up your Edge magazine. Check us out, edgemagazine.net. And it has been an absolute honor being on here, and I can't wait for you to be on our show.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. So, before I close out the show, again, you can go to. Can you give us one more time that website so people can subscribe to the Edge?
edgemagazine.net.
Okay, and to listen to the Being Curious show, simply go to am950.com, and you can find her show amongst other amazing
shows.
AM 950 shows, like the Downright Upright show.
Absolutely. Just go to AM 950 programs and just listen away and just get curious. There's Greg at Ghostbox. There's Elizabeth at Exploring Sovereignty, Candy at Green Tea. Just
Laura
the ones
Headland,
Laura Headland,
Food
Ellie.
Freedom.
Oh my gosh,
Ellie 2.0.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go on and on with this station. It's a beautiful station, wonderful people. Yeah. So thank you so much, Kelly, for being a guest on the Downright Upright show, because you were just a fabulous person. I wish I had more than an hour, but
we'll do it again. Don't worry.
We will.
We can do a series.
And to our listeners, thank you for spending time with us today, and please look out for more of the Downright Upright show in the future on am950radio.com/events/Philip, Philip with one L. And finally, thank you to the listeners for supporting the Downright Upright show and your clicks, your subs, and all that wonderful stuff. You mean everything to me, and I love you all. And stay safe, and ciao for now.